Hello everyone, Becca here from Willow Hill Designs, and today I'm sharing my last signature for our Roxys Journal of Stitchery book, and that would be beginning with the June page, or the last page of the journal. But the way that I did my signatures is that they're not accordion folded, they are like little books. So there's 4 pages in each signature. So the first 4 months are in the first 2 signatures. So there's 4 pages in the first signature. There's these. So that's the first, that's one signature. And then the second signature also has 4 pages. And this would be May's page right here. And that's not sewn in yet. I still have to sew that in. You can see it's pinned here. And I did finish June. I finally finished it. And the prompts were hand-dyed fabric or hand-painted fabric. This is silk to peony that I had hand-dyed for a quilt for our daughter, and a heart. Those were the prompts. And the last thing that I added were some silver seed beads amongst these flowers, the lace flowers around this little heart keyhole. And it made me think of dew on the flowers, and it looks like you're peeking in at the little mother mouse and her little friend here, the fairy. So I just liked that little touch, and just added a few beads. I didn't want to do too many. I didn't want it to be encrusted with beads. And I also, the last thing I did was just to distress my label a little bit or try to age it a bit. I couldn't put it in a tea bath or coffee bath because I had printed this label on my inkjet printer, and I knew that the ink would run. The verse is, "The flowers appear on the earth, ... and I left a little portion of the verse out because I couldn't fit it in here. And the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. And I love that verse. So I just took a Q-tip and dabbed a little bit of ink from one of Tim Holtz's stamp ink pads and just gave it sort of a little bit more of a vintage look or a little aged look. And so that page will go right here, right next to the little bird. So that begins, that is June, and that begins the last signature. And for me, in my book, that last signature has 3 other pages that I wanted to put some things in. So on that first page for June will be the little heart with the mouse. And in keeping with the prompts, I wanted to make a block for my brother in memory of him. We lost him suddenly and unexpectedly, way before his time, and I wanted to do something in memory of him. And his birthday, oddly enough, is in the month of June, and so I thought it was perfect that he would be in the signature with the month of June. And what I did, my inspiration was that my brother had plans drawn up for a cabin that he was going to build, and a little cabin in the woods. And I had also seen this picture on the internet, and it was my inspiration. I changed it a bit, but basically the ideas were there. There weren't mountains or anything, and the cabin was more elaborate, but I just thought this made me think of him. And I embroidered the whole design first. It was all embroidered. And I added some fabric elements. These trees are fabric, and the little house is fabric. And then everything else is embroidered. the mountains, the bridge, everything. And because the prompts were hand painting and a heart, I decided to do some painting on this fabric. And of course my heart is in this page because it's for my brother as just my show of love for him. And I don't generally paint on fabric. I don't paint on my quilts. If I paint on walls. I'll faux finish walls or doors or furniture. People always comment on my front door or something like that, boxes and things. So this was new, to paint on fabric. And I have to say it was very, very easy. And what I used, I thought what I would share, what I used is my Derwent pencils, colored pencils. They're watercolor pencils. And you can use them on paper, but you can also use them on fabric. And in order to make them permanent on fabric, you would use fabric medium. This Liquitex fabric medium is what you would use, and it's kind of like an extender, and it helps you to blend colors too. So that's what I used, and this is like my little, if you just take a little scrap piece of fabric and use it to just sort of test out your colors and your strokes. I just tried out colors to see what colors I liked, maybe for the mountains or the trees and water. What colors did I like to use? And it's always good to use a little test piece of fabric. And I just thought I would show you quickly how easy this is to use, to do. And just shake up your fabric medium. And really don't need a lot. And you just take some of it and put it on the image that you're wanting to paint. And depending on how much you put down, will either have your colors be transparent, a little more transparent, or a little more opaque. And just take your pencils. These were the colors that I used for the trees. And just kind of lay down some color in the image that you want to paint. And in order to blend, just take your brush and blend it. And if you want it lighter, you would add a little more fabric medium to that. And if you want it darker, then add, take a little, you can actually blot it and take a little bit away. And to shade, same thing, just take another color and lay down some color for shading. And add a little more fabric medium. And you can blend as much in or out as you'd like. If you'd like it a little darker, just add a little more color to your image. And you can, I mean, really, when you think about it, it's kind of like coloring in a color book. And just blend your colors. As I said, the fabric medium really lets everything blend so nicely. So that was how I put down the color. And I used two brushes. These brushes have been used a lot. A thicker brush and a finer one for finer images. And that's how I achieved the colors that I wanted. And you can see, and you can go back in after it dries and add a little bit of color. I haven't tried to take any color away, but you can add a little color to it. And And this way I was checking to see which greens I liked for the trees. And the same thing with the water, the blues, which blues I liked and which I didn't. So it's nice to have a little scrap piece of fabric handy. And just color really like you're coloring in kindergarten, really. In a sense, it's that easy. So that allowed me to do the hand-painted aspect of the page. And so I just blended some colors for the mountains, and these trees are blended as well. And they have embroidery also, which adds, I think, to the depth and a little bit more just intricacy to the trees rather than just kind of green blobs there. And the water, the same thing. And where you would like maybe less color, just put the fabric medium but don't actually color over it, or you can take your white pencil and you can blend as well. And then for the stones on the bridge, I same thing, fabric medium where I wanted to lay down some color, and then I just colored in. And the landscape, the grass, the sky, I didn't want the sky solid. I just wanted it sort of patchy blue and maybe like some clouds floating by, and the mountains kind of misty. So that is my hand-painted part of this page for this. It kind of goes along with the month of June, and of course my heart is in this page. And that page will go there. And because my brother always framed his artwork, well, for the most part, he framed his artwork, I thought I would put a little frame around this page. I haven't cut these down yet or sewed anything, but I have this fabric that I really love, and to me it looks like boro stitching or, just running straight stitch. It goes to a collection of fabric that has little animals, and it's all in this sort of ivory and black, and really will make a pretty quilt if I ever get to that. But I thought I would use this as a frame around this picture. So I'm thinking that I will put them like this. And just sort of frame out his picture that way. So I kind of like that. It kind of contains the picture and gives it a little frame. So that I'm okay with. That will stay like that. And so that orientation is landscape. But for this page, of course, this is June's page. And for this page, I printed out a little poem that our mother could, she learned it in first grade, and she could recite it till she was almost 98 years old, and really amazed me. There's quite a few verses in this poem. I sort of pushed everything together to fit on the page. And I didn't do anything fancy. I didn't go on my computer and choose any fancy fonts or anything. I just did put it on in my notes on my iPad, and then I just chose italics and printed it on my printer. So, and this poem is called September by Helen Hunt Jackson. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful poem all about September. And he and I would email back and forth. We would start September 1st, and I would type the goldenrod is yellow, and then I would send photos of goldenrod, and then he would type the corn is turning brown, and he would send photos of corn, and then the trees and apple orchards, and I would send an apple orchard or pictures of apple trees, and we would do that back and forth until the poem was finished. And our mother's birthday is in September, so it just all went together beautifully. Her birthday, the poem that she memorized that we used to love to hear her recite, and then of course the two of us would email it back together, back and forth together. So I felt that would be perfect in here with his page. And I thought I would also frame this page. I didn't want to put lace for my brother. I didn't want anything feminine. So again, I chose this same fabric that's Boro stitch, looks like Boro stitching, and I didn't even cut this down yet, but I thought I would do a frame like that as well with this fabric on this poem. So I think hopefully it will look all right. I will see once I get done with this page how it looks. So that's my idea for the third page in this signature. And I'll just take these off so they don't fall off. And for the last page in this signature, which will close out the book, for the last page, I chose a little writing that my brother had done in one of his journals. He kept journals always, especially of his wanderings through the forests and in nature. And this one, he wrote himself. This was one that I loved, and it's called The Bittersweet Vine. And it says, the warm seasons as the years pass, summer after summer, seasons of my spirit, they have come and they have gone into remembrance, leaving me entwined in the bittersweet vine. And I loved that. I just thought that was him. So I thought I would just close out this last signature in the last page of the book with that. And because this page is smaller, I wanted to put some kind of a border on this. And of course, again, I didn't want lace or anything, feminine to go on this page. So I found this fabric, and I think I'm pretty sure it's by Kathy Schmidt. And it makes me think of a notebook, sketches in a notebook. And it's got pictures of oak leaves and buckeye, horse chestnuts, maple leaves, acorns, just little blackberries, really beautiful fabric. I have about 2 yards of this, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but it's just so pretty. And as I was looking at this fabric, I noticed the word bittersweet right on here, right here, bittersweet. And I said, oh my goodness, isn't that absolutely perfect? So that will go on this fabric will be the border on this last page. I just feel like it's perfect for him. And I will center it so that the word bittersweet is on the page where you can read it. But I thought I would probably maybe miter this fabric, do something like that, a frame with a miter, and just all the way around, kind of do something like this. And I just thought that that would be a nice finish to this. How am I doing this? Wait a minute. It's got to be a right angle for a miter. Well, you get the idea. So that's what it would look like. I would frame it with that. And it actually almost looks like embroidery, sort of, to me. So that would close out my very last page in the book. That will be all the pages. And I will come back when I have finished stitching everything into place. I'll do a flip through of the book. I still have to make the floating spine, which now I think I understand how to do that. So I will come back when that's done. When these signatures are all stitched in, and I think it's my understanding that, you know, there'll be a little tab here, and that tab will be glued down, and that fabric will go over it. And the same thing in the front. That tab will go under there, and this will be glued over that, and then I'll be finished. And I left a little pocket to put a journal in. I am not a journal maker at all. I love the journals that I see that people make. They are just so beautiful. But my sewing studio is so chock full of fabric and everything related to that, to quilting, with rulers and everything you can imagine, that I don't think I could fit anything else in there, especially journal related papers and things. I do have some papers in a dresser, but it's mostly for making cards and things like that. I do save pages out of books that I think are beautiful, or magazines for cards, but I decided to buy a little journal, so I cheated, and I actually ordered it from Fat Quarter Shop. So I will write down some notes about this, my very first stitching journal. Thank you to Rachel, Sarah, and their mom for sharing this idea, because I love it. I have had such fun. I just have really enjoyed every minute of it. So I will write about my journey and put that in this little pocket here. And and I just wanted to share quickly a little hint. When I was stitching the seed beads onto my to the page with the little mouse, and my thread kept coming unthreaded, and it was just taking so much longer than it should have, just because every time I would pull through, my thread would come undone from the needle, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to take me forever. But I remembered a little trick with silk thread that you can use, because silk is slippery and it'll slip off your needle. And so if you just take the short end, take the short end of your thread and just make a little loop against the long end, and just bring the tail through the little loop, and just make a knot. Just pull, and just make a little knot right up by the eye of the needle. Your thread won't come out. It's there. It's there to stay. And you don't even have to leave as long a tail as I did there. You can leave a shorter tail. I just did that quickly, but it really worked nicely. After that, my thread didn't come out when sewing my beads on, so I thought I would just share that. Maybe you already know that, but it's nice to share these things just in case. The person that I learned it from, I think her name was Lucian Newman. She's a hand quilter and does a lot of quilting with silks, and she shared that, so I like to pass on those nice little hints that are useful. So thank you very much for looking at my page and what I've done. I appreciate it, and I love looking at everyone else's pages. The inspiration that's out there on between Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, it's just wonderful, and it's fun to look and see what everyone does, and always amazes me how everyone thinks of something different with the prompts. We all get the same prompts, and yet everyone's pages are so different and so unique, and I love that. I just think this is This is so good for your soul. So thank you again for watching, and I will come back and do a flip through my book, and hopefully I'll have it finished in the next couple of weeks because our next one is coming up soon. But thank you for watching, and bye for now.